Howdy folks, my name is Richie aka Bog Otter, and welcome to the top 5 tips to get yourself ready to raid in Guild Wars 2. Let's get to it.
Number 5.
So the first step is about common sense. You're going to want to talk to the people that you play Guild Wars 2 with, right? Are you in a guild? Do you play regularly with a group of friends? Are you the officer or the guild master in a guild? Well, start talking and lay some groundwork of what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. And hold a meeting. Hold a meeting on a voice chat some night and start to actually talk to people what they want or what they expect from raiding. Some things to kind of discuss in this kind of meeting would be like, what nights are people available to raid? How many nights per week do you want to actually schedule to tackle these things? Assuming that they're difficult, you probably want to go in more than one night a week, especially as they open up more wings. How are you going to handle things like who gets into the raid on a given night? How many raid groups are you going to have? How many raid leaders do you have? And, those kind of questions are going to differ wildly depending on, what group you have and how many people you have and such like that. But it's a good idea to start talking about these things right now. Come up with some guidelines. Come up with some rules. Post them on your forums so that people that missed the meeting can still refer back to them. And start to kind of, just develop what this is going to be. This is going to be a big change for a lot of Guild Wars 2 guilds because we're not used to having this level of coordination. Some folks might have a schedule already with their guilds where they do guild missions or where they do like silver waste farming or world bosses together, dungeon runs, maybe world versus world, those kind of things. But now you have to fit raid schedules into there. So having a meeting, coming up with some ground rules, coming up with a template for how you're going to proceed once the raids comes out. Just communication in general is the gist of this tip.
Number 4.
The next tip is to get your character that you're going to be raiding with prepared as possible, and that means getting as much ascended gear as you possibly can. Now, ArenaNet has gone on record saying that they are tuning the raid encounters to be difficult, and they are assuming that the full group of 10 players going into the raid is in full ascended gear. Now, does this mean that ascended gear is absolutely required to make any progress? No, but if you want to be as prepared as possible and set yourself and your guild up for as much success as possible, it's probably a good idea to get yourself equipped now when you have some time. I would start by focusing on getting ascended rings, ascended accessories, and ascended amulet. These things can be gotten for laurels if you've been logging in every day, or if you've been running guild missions and you have extra ones, you can get them for guild commendations. And then next I would focus on getting an ascended weapon because you're going to get more stats for your buck there. And then finally working on your 6-piece armor set for ascended gear. Now there are going to be ascended weapons and armor drops in the raid, but that's only if you're being successful in actually killing these bosses, and we don't know exactly what the percent chance of dropping one of those is, so it might take a while to gear up a character. Ascended gear has been in the game for a long time. Many players might have it already, but now's the perfect time to kind of jump in and start crafting these things while you're waiting for the Heart of Thorn expansion to release. So help your raid group out even before you start raiding. Make sure that your character is as prepared as possible, and that includes getting the best equipment that is available in the game. Now, if you've been hesitant to make ascended gear because you don't know what stat combo you're going to make, keep in mind there is a Mystic Forge recipe for switching the stats on the ascended gear. It's not too expensive to do that, so take your best guess, do a little bit of research about what specs you might be running in a raid, and then if it has to change post-launch of the Heart of Thorns expansion, well then so be it. At least you know there's a way to switch it that's not going to make you remake all of the armor and weapons.
Number 3.
My next tip revolves around the same idea of being as prepared as possible to raid, and that includes having the proper specs, learning how to play your class, and being able to switch up and play multiple specs. If you're going to go into the raid group and say, I only know how to play like a DPS all berserker warrior, well, there might be fights where we need somebody to do condition damage, or we might need a fight where somebody needs to be a little bit more support or tanky, or we might even require a shout warrior build. We need to see the encounters to kind of know what it is, but we already know from the first raid boss that you're going to need some people that actually have condition focused damage and some people that have other damage focuses, and maybe even a support healer or two to kind of keep people alive. So the more versatile that you can be, the more specs you know how to play, the more rune sets that you have that you can swap in, the more different types of food that accompany these different specs, and then knowing the proper rotations of how to play these specs efficiently is going to really help. And one of the unique things about Guild Wars 2 raiding is that it's super alt friendly. And what I mean by that is, in typical raiding in other games, like for example World of Warcraft, your alt wouldn't be invited to any raids. The reason for that is because you gear up by doing the raids, and the gear power level increases as you go from raid to raid. So if your guild spent all of this time, like weeks and weeks or months and months of raiding to gear up my warrior, for example, I can't suddenly come in the next day and say, you know what, guys, I want to bring my thief today, even though he's gotten no raid gear. He would be far underpowered. The guild wouldn't want to bring him in at all because the other character of yours took all of the loot that could have gone to other players, and so alts are generally not accepted into raids. In Guild Wars 2, it's not going to work like that. The power level is not going to increase beyond the ascended gear level, so it doesn't matter if if I bring my warrior or my thief or my guardian, as long as they have the same power level and I know how to play them. That's going to be the key. So if you're the type of player who has like 4 level 80 characters, and you know how to play various specs on all of them, and they all have ascended gear, well, guess what? You're going to be a pretty awesome raider, and your raider leader is going to love being able to have you swap in and like, okay, we need you to play your druid this week and give us some heals. All right, next week we're going to have you do like a boon stripping guardian or something like that. It's going to be a really cool thing. You can be like the Swiss Army Raider. And so one of the things you can be doing now is getting all of your alts ready as well. Do you have other level 80 characters? Get them in ascended gear. Learn their specs. Make sure you have the right runes and the consumables, and make sure that your raid leadership knows all of the tools that you have at your disposal.
Number 2.
ArenaNet let the community test the first boss in the first raid instance. He is called the Veil Guardian. He is located in the Spirit Veil raid. There's a couple of trash mobs before him, and then you fight the boss fight. And some groups have already taken him out. So there is full strategy details available online. You can check various forums, Reddit posts, YouTube videos. You can actually see the fight in advance. The more you learn about the fight in advance of it, the quicker your guild is going to be able to organize this and take this first boss out. As I mentioned earlier, we know that you're going to require a group that has some people that are focused on regular damage output, and there's going to be some requirement for condition removal as well. Boon stripping, you're going to need to have a couple people to be able to strip a boon so that you can damage the boss, and you're also going to need to have probably some healers involved in this. We were using druids, and they seem pretty effective at this. And in general, this first fight takes a lot of situational awareness. Every 10 seconds or so, there's going to be a red circle on the ground indicating that there's going to be a sizzle. That's the mechanic I call it. The sizzle after a few seconds will blow up and hurt everybody in the raid, and you need to have at least 4 people run to that spot and kind of absorb that damage, and that happens about every 10 seconds or so. There's also multiple phases in the fight. At certain points, the boss will split into 3 different guardians that need to be brought to different sides of the platform and defeated individually, and that's when your group splits into a condition damage group, and then a regular damage group, and a boon stripping group. So familiarizing yourself with this raid encounter now is a great way to help out your guild and your raid leader. If you go in blind and have no idea what you're about to expect, that means the raid leader has to spend more time explaining things and ultimately slows things down. But this tip is going to also be something that you can take forward as we find out more information about other raid bosses. As soon as the raid comes out, there's going to be top tier elite guilds that actually clear through the content fairly quickly. That does not mean that the content needs to be nerfed. That means that those groups are very, very good. But what it does do is it means some of that content comes out, and that information becomes readily available to the guild. And I know that some guilds are going to probably want to experience these bosses for the first times themselves without reading a whole bunch of strategy. But if you're really looking for being prepared and making sure that your guild doesn't spend too much time failing over and over again, once this information is out, it's a good idea for every raid member to study up, watch the fights, and get ready to try to tackle it themselves.
Number 1.
And the final tip is to actually practice with squad mates and guild mates. Right now, you can do several different things to try to get used to coordinating with a group of people. If you know that you already have some raid leaders in your guild who are going to be active on voice chat during your raids, well then have them take a group of 5 players and run some difficult fractals, right? Have that one player lead the other 4 and get used to them working together. There's going to be a certain amount of chemistry that needs to be formed within your raid group. You're going to have to know each other's styles and know each each other's strengths and weaknesses and be able to cover for each other. So doing things like fractals is a good way to kind of get that going. You can also bring a group of 10 players in a squad in World versus World and roam around together. Again, the same similar concept with a raid leader telling everybody what to do and the rest people following and, you know, supporting the group. You can see how effective you are at sniping different targets in there, and running around as a group of 10 in World versus World is a great way to start fostering that teamwork together. Realize that you're not alone in this. If you're kind of lost, you don't know what spec to do, you don't know how to create ascended armor, you don't know where to go to find information about the raid bosses, talk to your guildmates, all right? Don't pretend that you know what you're doing. If you have questions, ask. People would love, especially like when I was raid leading a lot, I would love it when players were forthright about this kind of information in advance and not kind of taking the time during the actual raid to ask these questions. Talk to them outside of the raid schedule, talk to them when things are just casual and you're just hanging out, and you know, do what you can to kind of get prepared for this. So that's going to wrap things up, folks. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, I'd appreciate you hitting that like and thumbs up button before you go, and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when future videos are released. If you still haven't purchased your copy of Heart of Thorns expansion, there's a link in the description below. That is my referral link, and it directly supports the channel. I hope everybody has a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Take care.